Yo, what's up, everybody? This is Nick the Quick Van Exel, and you rocking with Late Night Lake Show.
Hey, what's going on, y'all? Welcome to a new episode of the Late Night Lake Show podcast, powered by Prize Picks. It is your host, Ricky and Kwame, back from hiatus. It's been a few weeks. It's been a minute, y'all, but rest assured, we've been still locked into our Lakers, watching this roller coaster of a season. Now take another turn for the positive, right? I don't know. The fan base still's got their pitchforks out. Starting players are still in trade rumors, but a wonderful, wonderful double OT thriller against the Golden State Warriors really has us waking up today on Sunday, January 28th, year of our Lord 2024, with smiles on our faces. And look who we got in the building. Our boy Jovan Buha at The Athletic is going to come through and chop it up with us and talk all of the crazy ass headlines that partially Jovan, you responsible for, man. You've been feeding the streets with a lot of good content, and I'll just say that the timeline has been ablaze with Jovan Buha quotes, brother. First and foremost, thank you for coming back and chopping it up with us, man. The red eye, yeah, that was a late game yesterday. How you feeling? And just tell us how it felt to be in that building for that LeBron Steph just classic.
Yeah, I'm pretty tired, but it's a good tired. Last night, I mean, I don't know how many more we have left of these LeBron Steph classic matchups, but the game started off as a bit of a mid-off, where you have the 9 seed playing the 12 seed, and kind of crazy. Like you can make the case these are the two most disappointing teams this season among teams with expectations. I think most people had the Lakers and the Warriors in their top 6 entering the season. So, both teams have had things kind of go awry for various reasons this season. But, we had a classic game and wild swings on both sides, both teams kind of figuring out new lineups. Warriors go back to Draymond in the starting lineup, play him at center. Lakers go back to last season's starters and ride that group to win the game. And Steph puts up 46 points, season high 9 threes. LeBron has 36, 20 and 12. Oldest player in NBA history to put up a 30-20. First Laker to put up a 30, 20 and 10 since Kareem in 1976. And a career high 20 rebounds. Just doing that in year 21 is wild. So it was a great game. And there was just the emotional roller coaster of, I'm watching it as an objective, third party, but you are starting to think about like what you want to write about after the game and what questions you want to ask and different things. And it was like every 5 to 10 seconds that was changing based on, Steph's crossing up AD and getting to the rim and LeBron's hitting these jumpers and DLO's pulling up, turning the ball over, then pulling up in transition with just,
oh my god,
that's a steal, man. Like I don't know how to say it.
Madness,
lunacy. That was if he misses that shot, that is like,
that's
I guess it would have been a Sunday, but that's like leading first take on Monday. That's the first question we're asking Darvin is like, why did D'Lo take that shot? He just had a couple turnovers and now he misses that. At that point, the Lakers are down 2. Theoretically, Golden State gets a stop. They get a bucket, maybe they go up 4 or 5, and now all of a sudden the game's potentially out of reach. But he makes that shot, and it was just a wild game, and even to the point of Steph hits the 3 with 5 seconds left, and then I have an idea LeBron's going to go to the rim, but I thought Draymond played an incredible defensive game, all things considered. I thought he really locked into AD and played some of the best defense we've seen against AD this season. So when I saw Draymond was guarding LeBron, I was like, I don't know, like we'll see, but draws the foul and the rest is history. LeBron ices the game. So that was a classic. Part of me was like, let's just go to 3 overtimes. Like, this is just so fun. Like, I don't want this to end, but at some point it was like, okay, Lakers won. And it was the latest classic in a decade of classics between LeBron and Steph.
Ooh, I mean, I don't know, man. You're paid to cover these games, and I could just, everybody in that building felt walking out of there that they were money well spent after that clash of the Titans, bro. You wake up today, Coach Steve Kerr, and I know Warriors fans have their opinions about their own head coach. Everybody's got opinions about their own head coach. I happen to think Steve Kerr is a good enough head coach, got enough championships to show for it, but he was not too happy about the foul discrepancy last night. Talking about Steph only taking 4 or 5 free throws in the entire game, while also shooting 20 3-pointers in the game. I think, Jovan, I think the stark difference between a Lakers team that is the best at defending without fouling and the Warriors being literally the polar opposite of that category. That's usually how these results are going to turn out. Just obviously, objectively speaking, did you feel that the game was a pretty clean game officiated? I know Warriors fans waking up thinking that they got cheated, but I mean, if you can't beat a basketball team in 2 overtimes, who knows, if you ever were meant to win. But just from your bird's eye view, bro, just as far as like from the zebra perspective, was that a clean game to you?
For the most part, yeah. I mean, I think there's always calls you can point out on both sides that, like if I was making the case for the Warriors, I thought Clay's 6th foul on Austin was a little weak. I didn't think that probably should have been a foul. And I thought the one weird call was I forgot who took the first shot, but I think they had a shot. I think Steph took a shot. It was like an air ball. They get the offensive rebound, and then there's an inadvertent whistle, and then it becomes a jump ball. That one to me was, I felt the Warriors had clear possession at that point, and it should have just been Warriors inbounding on the sideline. They ended up winning the jump ball anyway, so it was just a matter of, I guess they technically got the ball a little bit further from the basket, but they didn't lose possession. But look, this was the case going back to the Western Conference semifinals. Like, this was the narrative. This was what Golden State was upset with, and this is just how these two teams play. The Warriors are a jump shot heavy team. They took 58 3-pointers last night. And they, I mean, they're one of the best shooting teams ever. They got the 2 best shooters ever. So they are a perimeter oriented team offensively. And yes, they did, I think they were putting out that, or I saw on Twitter, some people pointing out like the field goal attempts in the paint, and like it was similar, but a lot of what the Warriors do is with, back cuts, and Lakers are top blocking them. And a lot of it is leveraging that spacing and that gravity that they have to get to the rim. And a lot of times those are, breakdowns with the defense, and it's wide open. Like, Steph's crossing up AD and he's getting a wide open layup. And like, that's not, that's technically a paint attempt, but you're not saying that's a paint attempt through contact necessarily. Whereas the Lakers play bully ball. The Lakers play smash mouth basketball offensively. And it's a lot of LeBron and AD ramming through you to get to the rim, and going through 2-3 defenders. And it's funny too, because the Lakers empirically do get to the free throw line a lot, but LeBron, I think, gets one of the worst whistles in the league for a superstar. and we see it. And it's funny because I think if you polled the average NBA fan, they'd probably point to LeBron, other than, maybe Harden, Trey, some of the obvious guys, Joel Embiid, but they'd point to LeBron as like, oh yeah, he gets superstar calls. Like, it's LeBron, the refs are going to favor him, this and that. But like, he doesn't really, like, I think he had 3 free throw attempts last game against Chicago. Like, he just has these stretches where he's getting hammered. I mean, I think back to the Boston game last season where it's a clear foul. I've said this multiple times. Like, I was on the other side of the arena at the, bird's eye view, and I could still see that was a foul. And the fact that wasn't called, there's a whole Eric Lewis situation and all that stuff. So
yeah, well,
you don't have to get into that. But I just think, like, I mean, yes, like, maybe the Lakers sometimes because of the way they play. And that's the other thing. Like, sometimes style dictates how the refs call things. And there is that cliche of like the aggressor tends to get the benefit of the doubt with refs. So the Lakers kind of set a tone early in games where they're going to be attacking the rim. They're going to be plowing through you, and they start to get those calls. And that's just the way that they play. And it's it just is what it is. Like maybe it could have been a little bit closer than 43-16. Could there maybe been a couple calls that went in the Lakers' favor that didn't go in their favor, or a couple calls could have gone in the Warriors' favor? Sure. I think those things should be closer in theory, but I do think this is a rare example of just two teams playing opposite styles, and that tends to favor the Lakers, at least in the free throw department. Obviously, with the threes and stuff, like the Warriors killed them. So it's just kind of an interesting style clash there.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I don't, and Jovan, to your point, I struggle to understand how this is a concept that can't be seen just by simply watching the game. The styles are drastically different. And, you can look at the shot charts and say, well, the points in the paint were close, but if you get fouled and you don't make the shot and you go to shoot free throws, they don't count that as a made attempt in the paint. So those numbers aren't telling the full story. And I think that's what a lot of people on the internet that's a good point. Are misunderstanding. So, if you watch the game, Lakers put a ton of pressure on the rim. They're always attacking the paint. They're not a heavy jump shooting team, so obviously they're going to get the foul calls. But I mean, LeBron only had 6 free throws, so you're talking about the superstar of the team put up 30 points that game, only shot 6 free throws, and 2 were to ice the game. So when you put it in that kind of perspective, you really have to look at the game in totality and understand those styles, to your point, Jovan. So again, box score watchers and whatnot may not get that, but the Warriors have had a tough time, I think, accepting the stylistic clash between LeBron-led bully ball teams and their jump shooting team. So, that's just the point that I wanted to quickly make. But let's get to the big topic. Now, this one has been making its rounds around the internet for many a weeks, but Darvin Ham and his strategy, this lineup that we can't seem to understand as to why this playoff lineup from last year's lineups kind of end that season, why we won't see enough of it. I mean, we saw it close the second half of the game last night. It was phenomenal, helped build a little bit of a lead. We went back to our original starting lineup to start the third. Warriors went off on the run, quick timeout, put the same guys out there. Warriors went on another run. Game was starting to feel a little out of reach. It was like, I think, a 25-6 run in totality. Started getting a little rough. Can you give us a little bit of insight as to what Darvin really, really sees here that Taurean Prince needs to continue to hold that position over Vanderbilt? Obviously, when Vanderbilt comes in, a lot of the energy shifts. Seems like a whole new, like a shot to the arm to the team. Everybody starts getting a little more active. He's all over the place, flying around, getting steals. We know Darvin had a little bit of a comment in the post game that you tweeted out that also made its round. So just give us a little bit more on your perspective of what's kind of happening with Darvin's strategy, the lineups that are run, and why we can't get this playoff lineup from last year to start a game.
And does he need to pull a LeBron and show up to practice with wine in his cup? Is that the only way we're going to get these lineups right? He need to show up with the wine, bro.
Yeah.
I don't know, man, to be completely honest. I don't have a great answer for it. I don't understand it. I know talking to some people with the team, they don't understand it either. And I think this gets back to some of the criticism of Darvin Ham. And I think you have conversations with people, and there is a lot of strategy behind a lot of different things, and sometimes fans might not agree with that or have a differing perspective or whatever. But this has been kind of the one consistent thing of talking to people with the Lakers and talking to people around, even people with other teams, and just asking, like, who do you think should start? The consensus is, like, people do not understand why Taurean Prince is starting. And it's not a knock on Taurean Prince, but I mean, he's been shooting 39% on threes. He's a fine player. He's I would say he's a slightly above average defender. Like, he's a professional basketball wing who is solid, but he is more of a 18 to 22 minute a night bench player. And he's been overtaxed playing 30 to 35 minutes, having to, with this current group now, having to defend an opponent's best perimeter threat. And that's just not within his wheelhouse. That's not what his strengths are. I think he's a bench shooter who should come in, get up 4 to 6 threes, if you're playing with pace and moving the ball. And if he's having a hot night and he's made several threes, maybe he plays a little bit more. Maybe he closes that night. But outside of that, this is a guy who And if you look at his previous roles, he's primarily been a bench player. He has rarely cracked that 30-minute threshold over the last few seasons. And yet that's become a routine thing for the Lakers this season. So if you talk to Darvin Ham, at least publicly, he's consistently said that Jared Vanderbilt isn't in game shape and that he's still getting his legs back under him. He came back 26 games ago. And I know he missed a couple games over that span, but that excuse, I think, only goes so far. Now, Vando has, I think, clearly taken a physical leap over the past couple weeks or so. Like you've seen that jump with him from an energy perspective, from a defensive perspective. I think offensively, the Lakers have figured out different ways to leverage the way that teams guard him, or rather don't guard him. And, with the cutting and the offensive rebounding and the positioning along the baseline and just these little kind of adjustments. I do think Darvin and the coaching staff deserve credit for that. But at the end of the day, if you're going to start DLO and Austin, they have some clear limitations defensively and on the defensive glass. And that is where, we can debate the spacing and this and that of Taurean versus Vando, but Vando is a much better rebounder and he is a much better defender. And he just gives you an element of size and physicality and athleticism that Taurean can't provide. So I think that it's clear. If Austin and D'Lo are your third and fourth best player in some order, we can debate that. But if you're going to start those two guys next to LeBron and AD, that fifth spot is really critical. And Vando does the things you need more than Taurean does. And the one thing is shooting. And I get it. Again, Darvin has said that they want shooting and skill around LeBron and AD. I get it, but you have enough of that with Austin and D'Lo, and you and you see when you start Taurean, you're giving up offensive rebounds. Maybe Steph or Clay is shaking loose now. You need Vando out there. So again, Taurean as a bench player coming in, fire it up. See if you can get hot that night. But other than that, I don't understand it.
Man.
No,
what happened back there in Atlanta? Kwame, we need to do LNLS investigates. Figure out what type of team bonding, type of blood oaths did they take to each other when Darvin was an assistant coach. Right, yeah, right. So
days, yeah.
You're doing some articles, Jovan. Maybe it's good to ask some people in the building. Was there a special room that they would spend time? I don't know, man. I don't know. Maybe they did a lot of team building retreats, and now Taurean and Darvin just have a relationship that cannot be unbroken. I think I saw the stats on the timeline, right? A couple people have said it now. Taurean Prince is set to double the amount of starts that he's had in the season at any point in time in his career, right? Cam is getting the most minutes and the most starts that he's ever had in his career. And it's hard not to at least do the familiarity game by saying, well, those are also guys that Darvin was a part of the organization for at previous stops, right? i.e. Atlanta. Are we playing favorites with role players right now? It's I don't know, man. You go back to how we felt about the whole I can fix Russ situation, right? And it kind of, that felt like he was trying to make it work. And a little bit once he moved to the bench, it got a little bit better. But, Russ is no longer here. And it's just all right, who are Darvin's angels for this season? And it definitely feels like, he leans on Taurean. He trusts Taurean. But Taurean wasn't here, and part of the success that playoff lineup of Vando in the rotation with the rest of them we saw. So I think for the fans, right, and Jay, I'm sure at your conversation, folks inside the buildings, I'm a little perplexed about it too. But for fans that can't talk to or reach Darvin Ham, man, it just feels like one of those things that he's digging in to this decision, even as we take a look, and Vando was plus 29 on the floor last night and easily was the most disruptive player on the team. It's hard not to think that these are intentional moves and digging himself in and needing to have wine and a good night's rest before answering any effing questions about rotation. So the nation thanks you for asking these questions, man. Please continue to do so, because our confusion can only get cleared up by hearing it from the horse's mouth. So where you have actually been making your biggest strides and impact on the nation has been these trade rumors so far. The most documented Lakers trade since Anthony Davis is easily the Murray trade in Atlanta. Dejounte Murray has been connected to the Lakers for about a month and a half now. Jovan, you have documented the cat and mouse back and forth game. As of today, man, do you think it's more or less likely that the Lakers end up making a trade for the Atlanta point guard? Or do you feel like with the recent player, how everything's going and looking like the offense might be turning the corner, do you see that becoming less likely?
I think it's trending less likely right now, from my understanding. You hear a couple different things depending on who you talk to. One is that Atlanta really is drawing the line in the sand with Austin Reaves, and they're insisting that any deal for Dejounte has to include Austin Reaves or they won't do it. And then there's the other information that's out there of them wanting a third team and to not take on DLO's contract. And anytime you add a third team, it just gets more complicated because now you're negotiating with two other teams. The third team is basically like, why are we just joining this? Like, what are you going to offer us to make this worth our while? And the Lakers, frankly, only have so many positive, attractive trade assets, right? It's the 2029 first round pick. They have some pick swaps they could throw in, but it's not exactly a first round pick, but it's close. They have JHS, who's a rookie midway, top 20 pick midway through his rookie season. They got Max, they got Austin, and they got some second round picks. And you can empty the cupboard theoretically in a 3-team trade, but they're going to try and retain some of those assets. With so far them being most willing to part with the 2029 pick and JHS. But I think right now, like the sides have already had their negotiations. I wouldn't say a final offer has been made, but the Lakers have made up to this point the best offer that Atlanta has received for Dejounte. And I think right now the ball's in Atlanta's court of, can you find a better offer than this, or are you're going to just not trade him and keep him and keep going with this backcourt that clearly has not worked in the season and a half or so that they've been together. So I think for the Lakers, sometimes the price is a little bit higher for the Lakers to do a deal compared to what other teams are able to do. And that's just, it's the gift and the curse of being the Lakers. But I think right now it's trended. I would say that the percentages, I think last week on Hoops Tonight, I said Murray, I was asked to give a percentage. I put it about 45%. That might be, or actually earlier this week, that might be trending down to now maybe 35%, I would say. It's hard to get above 50% because now you're saying like the deal's probably going to happen or more likely than not to happen. So I'm not going to go that high, but I think it's decreased a little bit, but it's also going to depend like what else is out there. Other moves have a ripple effect where, like, for example, now Terry Rozier is off the market. So if you were hoping to get Terry Rozier ahead of the trade deadline, he was one of your top guys. Now he's out there. So it's really like it's Murray, it's Malcolm Brogdon, it's Tyus Jones, it's Bruce Brown. Like the ball handlers that are available it's not a big list. And some of those guys are, not that, sexy of names. So it's really like if one or two other guys move within the next week or so, now all of a sudden that puts more pressure, I think, on both sides for I guess the Hawks can kind of sit there and let people make them offers, but for the Lakers, it's like, we got to figure this out. So I would say, depending on, if it's Austin Reaves or nothing, it's just not going to happen. But if you need to find that third team, I still think there's a shot there. So we'll see how things play out in the next week and a half. But I do think it's trending a little bit pessimistically just with what Atlanta's asking price is and how much they're valuing Murray at this point.
I just got to ask, Jovan. I don't need nobody to kill me. I just gotta ask the questions. D'Lo been playing out of his mind lately, and I'm starting to see folks wonder, fantasize about a potential Murray Russell backcourt, and obviously for that even to be a possibility, everybody's favorite AR is would have to probably be out the door. Is Austin Reaves still to this day about as untouchable as you can get in the Lakers' eyes? Obviously, there's a level below Anthony Davis and LeBron James, but is Austin still on that list that, hey, shut up, just don't talk to us if you're going to bring up our favorite white boy?
Yes. I think that there's several elements here where he's a homegrown talent, and the Lakers are sentimental in that regard of, they like players that they discover and they draft or they sign and that grow with the fan base, grow with the organization. Austin is a fan favorite. I know fans have started to turn on him a bit this season with some of the up and down play, but he's still one of the most popular players in the. I mean, he clearly like far and away the third most popular Laker. But you can even make a case like his name gets brought up more than AD sometimes. So there's that element of it. I think there's the Caruso element of it, of just the backlash and the regret of losing Alex Caruso. Again, also being a homegrown talent that the Lakers had some control over. And, if they trade Austin and all of a sudden he takes that leap that they were expecting this season, and now he's in Atlanta, he's an all-star. Let's say he's like an all-star reserve. And that's probably, of course, like the peak of his ceiling. But let's say that happens. Like now all of a sudden everyone's clowning the Lakers. You guys gave this guy up. You saw what he did last season. You saw what he did with Team USA, and you traded that for Dejounte Murray, who at this point is like a fringe all-star at best, but probably been a little bit below that. So I think for the Lakers, and then there's a matter of his contract of just, he's got at least 2 more years at about 27 million total, and upwards of 3 years, depending on what happens down the road. So I think the Lakers just value him very highly. Now, as I've reported, if like Lauri Markkanen is available or a clear-cut all-star, yes, they will consider, if that is what the team wants and that is like the headliner of the package, the Lakers would strongly consider, if not put Austin in that deal. But right now there is no player, of that ilk available. So again, if Lauri Markkanen, Donovan Mitchell, like what, pick your favorite all-star that could be traded. Yes, the Lakers would consider it, but anyone else, I think they just think it would be a mistake. And then we could get into the D'Lo stuff, but right now Austin, they don't want to move him, and I think the bar to move him is incredibly high.
That's fair. Makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Let's take a quick shift and let's look at a D'Lo one more time. So in this past offseason, he signed a 2-year, $36 million contract to come back with the Lakers. The second of that year being a player option, which will be coming up this upcoming summer. Just involved with a lot of the structure of his contract, the upcoming trade deadline, and then obviously the pending decision that he can make this upcoming summer. Where do you think it's kind of positioned D'Lo to look at with the entire picture of whether he decides to stay, go, and then how does that even affect the front office's ideas of, do we trade him? Do we gamble possibly losing him this offseason for nothing? Because I know that's been a hot topic again on Twitter, X, or whatever we're calling it, just around D'Lo's contract, even beyond his uptick in play, how much better he's played these last couple weeks. A lot of people still have it in the back of their mind, well, hey, he could still walk this summer with that player option and we get nothing out of it. So if you can give just a little bit of light on that, what do you think your perspective is in terms of what D'Lo should do and kind of what the front office is considering based on the structure of D'Angelo Russell's contract?
So D'Lo has a perception problem. Like around the league, just talking to different people, like they've not been phased by this run that he's been on, and that there's a lot of um, skepticism and just okay, let's see him do it for another month. Let's see him do it in the playoffs. Let's see him do it against Denver. And
Mhm.
I think at this point, with the sample size of his career, people have a healthy skepticism of, can he do this on the biggest stage under the brightest lights? Can he do this consistently, or is he, is this just a hot streak for him? And he plays well for a few weeks, and then he's going to go through, a few weeks of struggling or just not being as consistent. So I think that's the biggest thing right now, where it's almost become D'Lo has more value to the Lakers than he does to any other team, unless they have an assurance that he's opting out, and then he's basically an expiring contract at that point. But with the uncertainty about his future and his contract, D'Lo has more value to the Lakers than just about anywhere else. But from the Lakers' perspective, there is a potential lose-lose proposition here, where he's got the player option for 18 million, which is a low enough number where you can live with it if he opts in, but it's also a low enough number where it's sort of like, if he can't get more than that, and theoretically, like this version of D'Lo is better than an $18 million player, right? Like, if we were having free agency today and D'Lo was playing like this, I think he would earn more money even from the Lakers if they had the means to pay him more. But if it gets to the point where he has to decide on his contract and he's opting in because there really isn't a market for him, I think there would be some concern on the Lakers end of just, are we now retaining a asset that, yes, he's now an expiring contract, but really like there just wasn't much of a market for him. Is this kind of a negative asset? And like, what's gone wrong for him to be opting in when like theoretically the best version of D'Lo is much better than an $18 million player? Then the opposite end is like, if he continues this, he's going to have a market. There's going to be some team that talks themselves into, whether it's a sign in. I mean, you could do a sign and trade, or you can't do a sign and trade. You could do it the following, I believe. But regardless of that, him opting out, now all of a sudden as the Lakers, you either have to give him a raise and commit multiple years and a certain salary to him, or you have to let him walk for, or you don't even have to let him. He can just walk. And now you've lost that asset that you could have flipped him for Murray and had Murray now for several years. But now you've lost that salary slot, and they're already, past they're so deep, with LeBron and AD and Austin and Vando, that like they're not going to be a cap space team next summer if D'Lo walks. So there's a disaster scenario in which D'Lo plays great, he gets a market, he leaves, and now all of a sudden they just have a worse roster. So these are things that they're trying to weigh, because again, like D'Lo has a lot of value to the Lakers right now. He's been their third best player these past couple weeks, and even their second best player in certain stretches. So it's like, how do we view the potential risk down the road of him maybe leaving or him regressing? And then now all of a sudden we have this guy on our books that like we don't really want in our books. We can't really trade him. So like they're trying to weigh the pros and cons of keeping D'Lo versus trading him. But if they do trade him, at one point it was, we don't trust this guy, the West Conference Finals, this and that. I think it's become more of just we're kind of nervous about his contract, and ultimately there is a limitation to how Austin and D'Lo fit, right? So like it's kind of an either or thing, and given Austin's value in terms of his contract and just how much he means to the organization, I do think clearly they're favoring and preferring Austin. So there's that element as well, but there's a lot of things that are weighing. So I would still say it's more likely than not he's moved. But if it's not Dejounte Murray, it is kind of hard to find a clear target that would improve the Lakers this season with the way that D'Lo's playing.
The Late Night Lake Show podcast is sponsored by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is the best legal way to play daily fantasy player props in states like California, New York, Texas, and more. You pick 2 to 5 players and an over-under on their projections, and you can win up to 10 times on any entry. The best part is you can mix players from different sports. You could take the over on LeBron combined with the under on Mahomes in the same entry. Prize Picks is the easiest way to play daily fantasy because it's just you versus the projected numbers. Just use our promo code LNLS, and any deposit you make can receive 100% instant deposit match up to $100. So go support the brand and go win you some money. It's the best of both worlds. Again, use our promo code LNLS.
Wow.
Yeah, that make me a little nervous, Quam. You know, we've only been hearing a certain name, right? We've only been hearing Dejounte Murray. If the Lakers gonna turn around and flip DLO to some team for some player or groups of players, I don't. We no say. We've heard I think for all of these, right? We hear the rumors. We'll hear the big rumor, right? Then that's out there for the trade season. Then that shit don't happen. Then it's the moves you didn't hear about. And come on through. D'Angelo Russell, Jared Vanderbilt, in a Rui Hachimura trade a couple of weeks before that. I'm interested to see. I think you outlined this with Tim earlier this week. Kind of the 3 options the Lakers could go through, right? Making that Murray trade, making some smaller trade to kind of fill out the roster and, some smaller holes that are needed to be filled. Then there's we just going to take all this back and try to figure it out for the summer if there's a big fish that becomes available, right? And that more so, makes me think about those first round picks, right, that the Lakers have. And I think they'll have access to the 20-30 years or some shit like that, right? Once the season ends, they'll have the next the next set of picks that become available to them to possibly package together. I'm just I just can't trust that this big trade that's been talked about for a month is actually what Rob is cooking up on the front burners. I'm interested, what's on the back burner, what's under the pot that you got back there, Robbie? So I guess closest we could get to Rob is you. So I'm gonna ask you, Jovan. We heard the names of the Bruce Browns, which was whatever to me. It sounds like that's cooled down a little bit. What are some of the other under the radar names that you've kind of just been keeping your eye on? If okay, the Lakers don't move down this option A path and they're not gonna punt till next season, what are some of these option Bs that they're looking at?
Yeah, so I would put Dejounte. So I laid out the 3 paths of big move. You're kind of giving up most all your assets. Small to medium sized move where you're still probably giving up the first round pick or a pick swap or something, but you're not giving up. You're not emptying the cupboard. And then there's a small, basically standing pat, retaining your first round picks. At this point, this team's won 5 of 7 games. You have LeBron and AD playing at top 10 levels. I don't see how you can just stand pat and say let's wait till the summer, because you're basically punting on the season. And then you're saying, well, let's go try and get Trae Young or Donovan Mitchell or another star for the following season. But at that point, LeBron's going to be turning 40, year 22. AD has potentially had a rare season of good health for him. And I just think that is a foolish strategy if that's what the Lakers ultimately end up doing. So I think at a minimum, you have to make a small move. And so I think there's other ways that they can structure things where you can throw in Gabe. Now, everything I've heard, Gabe is not a positive asset just because of he's got a couple more years at a reasonable price, but there is concern about the knee. And anytime a guy has a knee, just an injury that has dragged on for as long as it has, then they're forced that they come back, they have a setback, they're forced to have surgery. That is a red flag of just, are we taking on a player that, are they going to play again this season? Are they going to play again in their career? And everything I've heard, Gabe is expected back at some point, but until you see it, he was also expected back earlier than he ended up returning, and he was supposed to be fine when he returned, and then he had the setback. So there's just a lot of uncertainty of that, are we going to be trading for this guy who now just has 2 dead years on our salary. And maybe there are some teams that, if the Lakers are willing to give up that first round pick, would be willing to take on Gabe's contract, just for that pick. But you are then playing the card of, this is the pick, and now you have only 2 tradable picks this summer. You are, potentially preventing yourself from making a bigger move down the line. So, they could get some salary of, like, if you put together Gabe, if you put together Torian, you could throw in JHS. Like, now you're getting into that like $18-19 million range, and you similar to DLO salary, like you can look, and if you throw in Rui, now you're at like 35, 36 or so. So there are different options where they can keep DLO. They can say, hey, we're just going to risk it. If he's not worth it and he opts in, like, we'll figure it out. If he opts out, we'll figure it out. But DLO's playing so well. Let's keep him. Let's keep Austin. And then let's go try and get, I think Dorian Finney-Smith to me would be a pretty realistic and reasonable target where, I've heard the asking price is 2 first-round picks. That's kind of like for the elite role players right now, Alex Caruso, Dorian Finney-Smith, Bruce Brown, like, those are the asking prices. Teams want you to give up. And look, they're not going to get 2 first-round picks. I'd be shocked if they got 2 first-round picks.
Bro's got a highlight reel of missing threes. Like, okay, I get it. He's a great glue guy, but goddamn.
I thought, going back to that game, he didn't shoot well against the Lakers, but I thought he defended LeBron incredibly well, like in the post and just, tracking LeBron. So I think DFS, like, if you could turn Torian, and it's not just Torian, but like if you could basically turn that Torian spot into DFS, and now you have a guy who has the last few years been a plus shooter. We know he's a plus defender. He's a decent rebounder. Like, he's got that 6'8" frame. Like, that to me is the type of guy where it's not the swing for the fences big move that necessarily changes your season. But if you can get him for, again, maybe that package, throw in the first, you have to throw in a second or whatever to get it done. And you're saying, hey, we're giving you JHS, a first and the second. Like, that's the best draft capital you're going to get for DFS. Could they do something like that? But the asking prices for role players are high right now. So, I mean, I look at smaller things like, could you get Andre Drummond as a backup center? I think that would be an upgrade. To me, like, backup center, it has a ceiling on this team, right? Just because we know AD is going to be playing 40, 42 minutes in the playoffs.
Yep.
But I think they need another guard, probably a backup point guard, and another wing. And if you can get maybe a couple smaller guys, Gary Trent is another name that Lakers have been tied to forever. Royce O'Neal would cost a lot less than DFS. So maybe you don't even have to give up a first. Probably don't have to give up a first for Royce. So could you get Royce? He's only making like $9 million. Could you swap Gabe and like a second for Royce or something? So I think there are some smaller moves. And as you said, with Rob, some of the stuff comes out of nowhere. Like, I will say, with the Russ deal, there was some buzz about Utah for like a week or two leading into that trade. But then we didn't know about Minnesota. We didn't know about the 3-team trade. We didn't know D'Lo was going to be in it. Like, the Rui trade came out of nowhere. So the Lakers tend to move in silence with some of these things. But there have been they got really close on the Indiana deal before the previous season. They've gotten really close on the Murray deal. Sometimes these deals, when they get close, it just falls through and it doesn't happen again. So we'll see. But I continue to hear, like, Murray is the priority. They're just trying to figure out what's our plan B if this doesn't work, because right now, if it's Austin or bust, it's going to be bust.
It's got to be bust. Well, that's exciting in itself, right? Let's see how creative they can get out here, right?
Wow. Some of the price tags for these role players, a little absurd. I mean, you would think that the market would have reset itself a little when the Terry Rozier trade went down. I mean, he went for an expiring and 1 first, and that's a star quality player in my opinion. And
he was averaging 23 and 6 this season.
Yeah, it went for an expiring Kyle Lowry and a first-round pick. So, I mean, I would have hoped that would have reset the market, but you know how teams get. They hold pretty tight until it gets really, really up to the deadline. But well, okay, just to kind of, I guess, move to one of our final topics of the show today, we'll shift our minds back to this upcoming summer. And there's a big decision for one LeBron James this season, as he has an upcoming player option worth a whopping $51.4 million.
Must be nice.
A lot of money.
Entering his 22nd season and turning 40 years old in that season. That's quite a cap hit that LeBron could hold. So, Jovan, I know, LeBron usually keeps his stuff pretty close to the heart. This is a big decision that the front office has to sit on, that LeBron has to sit on, that kind of, dictates a lot of the flexibility moving forward. But do you think there's any chance out there that LeBron could opt out, re-sign, restructure his deal just to allow a little more flexibility to kind of keep that championship window open a little bit longer, depending on whatever his playing plans are for the future? But just your opinion on some things that LeBron could do to kind of help extend this championship window, extend this tenure with the Lakers, obviously pending the decision on his contract.
Yeah, I think he could, opt out and sign a longer deal. As we know with him, he's tended to operate year over year, dating back to Cleveland and then now in LA. So I think that the more likely situation is just he either exercises that player option, or if he's opting out, probably going elsewhere and teaming up with Bronny if he comes out, or maybe he just pivots and goes to another team and is trying to win that 5th ring. If the Lakers have a disappointing end of the season. But I think more likely it's trending toward him exercising that option. That's not sourced, to be clear. That's just my read on the situation. I think he's got, his family's here. He's established roots in LA. And I said here, I'm in San Francisco. So his family's in LA.
Right.
He's got roots in LA. And, Bryce is in high school. Zuri is growing up in LA now. So I don't think they would move. So it would have to be like him, year 22, like I'm going to be in a different city than my family. Bronny, we'll see if he comes out or not, but if he doesn't, now you have a sophomore in college in the same city. So I really think, LeBron has become a part of LA. I think he's become an integral piece in Lakers history now, winning a championship and being here for as long as he has. So I think there's, aside from, again, just the family stuff and, his outside interests of Spring Hill and Uninterrupted and all the things he's doing off the court. I just think he likes being in LA and he's enjoyed being a Lakers. So, I think the one interesting thing will be if the Lakers punt on the season and they don't make a move and it backfires and this team
and they choose to keep Darvin going forward, right? That's something LeBron got to consider, right?
Yeah. So let's say nothing changes and the Lakers continue to be the team that they've been for the first 47 games of the season, and they miss the play-in, or they lose in the play-in, or they lose in the first round. Now that opens up some questions of is this really the right place if I want to win a 5th championship? But barring that, if they do trade for Murray, they do make even a smaller move that clearly upgrades the roster and it still fizzles out. At least I think there's because we know with LeBron, LeBron teams tend to make trades because LeBron is not satisfied with the current situation, and he's demanding, and he wants the front office and ownership and everyone to be on the same page of I want to win a championship. I want to make this roster, this situation as great as it can possibly be. And that is the standard that he demands. And so I think if the Lakers don't at least try to do something, that's a sign that maybe the partnership is going in a different direction this summer, and LeBron's going elsewhere and the Lakers are ready to move on. But I think more likely than not, they are going to make a move. They are going to try and go for it. And if they do that and it doesn't work out, then LeBron has to think about it, but at least he knows we were aligned in trying to do everything we could to improve the roster. So I think more likely than not, he's going to at least play one more year in LA. But there's still the Bronny factor of, is Bronny coming out?
Yeah.
If he is coming out, is LeBron tied to playing with him? I think what's gone overlooked in all this is, go back to the Warriors series. Bronny commits to USC, and LeBron talks about how excited he is for him and how great of a moment it is. But he also has kind of a couple throwaway lines of, playing with Bronny is my dream, but I don't know if that's his dream, and I have to honor. I'm paraphrasing here, but I have to honor my son and what he wants. So we've only heard the LeBron side of the LeBron Bronny situation. We haven't heard the Bronny side of it, and Austin Rivers has been very candid about what it was like to play for his dad, and it's different playing for your dad versus playing next to your dad. But if LeBron, already Bronny's going to have a bunch of eyes on him. We know, he's a megastar already, but you bring LeBron to the situation. Now it's going to be, what are they interacting like in the locker room? And like, are they mad at each other about something? And just all the questions and the attention that's going to come with them teaming up. I don't know if Bronny's going to want that, right? Like, I'm sure LeBron would love it because that's his son. So I think there's just a lot of factors that we don't know. We got to see how the next few months play out with the Lakers, with Bronny, and what happens at the trade deadline. But I think right now, I would still, if I had to bet, I would still bet that LeBron is a Laker next season. I think he likes being in LA, and it's kind of as simple as that.
And we like him in LA. We like him in LA too.
Quam's not trying to move again, man. Like,
I'm done.
He's not
done
trying
buying
to move
jerseys.
again. This reverse, everybody talks about potentially the 76ers. This reverse Fresh Prince going from California to Philadelphia. I just don't see it, man. And like, you're leaving the family behind for a season to, fine. Joel and them, they got a strong team out there in the East, but it's like, that's a guess. There's no guarantees. And yes, there's no guarantees he's going to win another one here. But I think, Story might be better written as a trilogy, as in 3 teams instead of 4. It just feels a less saturated as far as careers, right? We don't need the Orlando Magic Patrick Ewing jersey. We don't need a Akeem Toronto Raptors jersey. We don't need none of that. We don't need the Tracy McGrady San Antonio Spurs jersey, bro.
Wow.
With LeBron, please, we'll make whatever LA jersey you want, bro. Just don't fucking go nowhere, man. Trust me. I understand what life is like before LeBron James for this team. I don't do no young core rebuild type shit. Just get me to the adults in the room and let's hoop. Excuse me. But I think the last part about that, Jovan, that you brought up that I just don't want to overlook is Lakers have no choice. They are in the LeBron and AD win now mode. It's not win tomorrow. And I'm not going to lie, you had an article, I think that dropped last week, that literally made me see red, bro. The fact that the Lakers were at a point in their season where they were struggling and that apparently the front office was considering just like, all right, well, this squad ain't going to do it. Let's kind of pack up the tent and look forward to next year. Blood almost started falling out of my eyes, brother. That's not part of the program. That's not what's on the agenda for the unity of Los Angeles Lakers and LeBron James businesses. It's win now, win tomorrow, and then when it's over, it's over. Figure it out after that. And I think that's more so like, just doing your due diligence, making sure all your I's are dotted and T's are crossed. But damn it, don't ever write some shit like that again, man. I almost had a heart attack thinking that the Lakers were about to effing punt an NBA season with LeBron James employed. Anyways, Jovan, it's been a beautiful time hanging out with you, man.
Absolutely.
Appreciate you as always, brother. Everybody knows where to find Jovan. If not, he's at The Athletic. If you want to see his quotes, read his articles, right? Go read that. They're going to get aggregated the minute they press send. This will probably get aggregated and remixed to saying something that wasn't exactly what Jovan said. So get it out the horse's mouth. Read his stuff.
I'm used
listen
to
the pod. And I'm sure he is. But, we kind of need them impressions too over here at LNLS. So go ahead, clip it out. Just make sure you tag us, Late Night Lakers, and everything's all good. So, Jovan, man, appreciate you, man. Have a wonderful Sunday. Get some rest. You're on the Grammy trip yourself, right? Where's the next stop? I didn't see where we're at.
I am. I'm flying to Houston in 2.5 hours. So
shit, okay.
Gotta start getting ready for the airport.
Have fun, man. H-Town for Jovan. Make sure you hit the turkey hut. Let us know how them turkey legs are if you got time. If not, man, enjoy your time. Safe travels, and we'll holler at you soon, bro. All right. That'll do it for us on Late Night Lake Show podcast. Make sure you are subscribed wherever you get your hashtag good content. Hit the subscribe button, and we'll see y'all on the timeline. For Kwame and Jovan, it's Ricky. We out. Peace.